What about you? You're very welcome. You want to hit the follow button or the wee bell button for more nonsense as it comes up. Now, this week I thought I would share an anecdote from my earlier days in comedy, because I'm very, very old and a lot of stuff has happened. And why this thing came up to my mind was anti-social media popped up a documentary about the Kelly Show from 1998, whatever it was. And I had a relationship with the Kelly Show right from the start of me doing stand-up. Now, Gerry Kelly, the nicest man I have ever met in show business. One of the most talented journalists and best interviewers I've ever come across. And he had his own show. And that show was the original, biggest show in the country. On a Friday night, the whole country just switched off, sat down and watched the Kelly Show. And I was very fortunate because very early on, after doing stand-up for the first time, Gerry, being very kind, invited me and another comedian stand-up on to have a wee chat. The other guy was called, what was his name? Oh, Paddy Keelty. Don't know what happened to that kid. Don't know what happened to him. You know what I mean? Probably working in a bar somewhere. Here I am. Paddy did very well. So Paddy went off and conquered the world, and I stayed here. I never was very bright. Anyway, so my other relationship with the Kelly Show was that I would occasionally warm up for the show. I was a show warm up when the main warm up, the resident warm up, May McFetridge wasn't there. I would jump in, and that was great crack. It was great fun, but it could be challenging at times. Oh, there was one night, let me tell you, it was challenging. You could have had a blowtorch this night, and you wouldn't have warmed that audience up. Because in this particular night, I think they emptied every nursing home in Northern Ireland into the UTV studios. I swear to God, I was doing my bit. I was working my proverbials off, and I looked out into the audience, and in the third row, there was this wee woman. She looked to be about 106, you understand? And you know when old people fall asleep? Because I wasn't sure whether she'd fallen asleep or she'd died. There was just a 50-50. But you know how ones fall asleep and their head goes back? And the mouth falls open. That's it, all. Third row, out, completely out. But worse, her top dentures had fallen down into her mouth, and I'm there doing my comedy thing to her. Anyway, it wasn't always like that. And Gerry, as time went on, because he was ahead of the curve. Gerry was always ahead of the curve. He was always trying new things. He always wanted to take risks and try to promote local talent for what it was. And he invited me on to write sketches for the show. Lovely, loved to do it. So Gerry invited me on to write the sketches, and I brought my old mate Colin Murphy on so we could act the sketches out. And the thing about Colin Murphy, here's another wee story about Colin Murphy. So being selfish, let me explain to you what comics are. Comics are by nature selfish. So because I was writing the sketches, I thought I'd be smart. And I wrote this sketch, right, where Murph had no lines. I didn't give him one line. He just had to sit beside me as I done, which I thought, this is going to sit beside me. We filmed it. We filmed the sketch. I went home Friday night, sat down, turned on the Kelly Show, and went, bastard! He acted me off the screen without saying one word. Just with facial expressions, he blew me off the screen because I had forgotten Mr. Murphy is a brilliant actor. One of the most brilliant actors I've ever come across. Lesson learned. From then on, we got lines. Both of us got lines. I didn't make that mistake twice. And we did our sketches. We did all sorts of sketches. A Rodney King thing. We did a sketch about that, which I think I remember. Somewhere there's video of Murph in a female PSNI or RUC uniform as it was in. And so we tried to keep it up, what was ever happening. And one of the big things in those days was there was a Guinness ad out, and it was a dancing man. It was known as a dancing man. And it was massive. It was just one of the best ads they ever did. And so I decided to write a wee bit of a parody of it, take a piss out of it. Now, I've actually got a clip of this because the Kelly Show, they put out the documentary thing they put out there recently. We were at the very end. They put a wee clip of us and our wee sketch at the very end. So I'm going to show you now the original Guinness ad, a bit of it, and then our wee bit of taking the mickey at the end.
Sound. 15 seconds.
Fade down sound, BT22.
10.
BT22.
9.
BT22.
7. 6.
Sound of BT22.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, very important point here, apart from that being not a half bad sketch, is that proves, I once had her and it was ginger. There you have the proof. But we had great crack. So for about 4 or 5 weeks, we were doing our sketches and it was going very, very well. And we try to keep it current. I try to keep it, whatever's in the news, I wrote a sketch about. And around that time, it came out that a bishop down south called Eamon Casey had met an American lady. And they had become very, very, very good friends. Such good friends that the American lady had his baby son. And this all came out around that time. So I decided to write a sketch about this thing. And it's nowhere to be found. It's probably been it's been recorded over. And you'll understand why in a second. But so I'll explain to you what the sketch was. The sketch I wrote was, Murph and me are sitting outside the confessional, okay? Murph gets up and goes into the confessional box. And you see him kneeling in the confessional box. And you see Murph doing... And then, from nowhere, there's this unholy roar from the priest, whose fist comes through the grill and hits Murph in the nose. Murph is knocked out of the confessional, staggers back to where I'm sitting. I'm going, what did you say to him? Murph said, all I did was saying I was having sex with a woman outside marriage. And I went, and he hit you for that? And Murph went, how was I to know it was his girlfriend? Not a bad sketch. Come on now, that's not a bad sketch, considering everything was going on. Now, so that was about week 5 or whatever it was, and there was no week 6. There was no week 6, because I got a phone call. And the phone call said, Kitty, your services are no longer required. This is where it gets interesting. Now, we're 30 years on, so I'm pretty sure everybody involved has retired. Okay, so it's a clean slate. We can talk about this now. Because I don't indulge in urban myths, but this one's a really interesting one. Okay, here's the first thing, which could be true. This could be the absolute truth. They just decided we weren't funny. That could be what it was. They just sat down, had a meeting and went, they're nice guys. We don't like what they're doing. It doesn't suit our show. That could be. And there's every chance that is what happened. But the other thing I heard, right? The other story I heard was UTV received a phone call from a very, very, very high-ranking member of the Catholic Church. He was very, very, very annoyed at our sketch. And that was why, get away, go on you boy. Now, I also heard, to his eternal credit, that Gerry Kelly fought tooth and nail to try to get us to get staying on the show, but didn't work out. And why I would love that to be the case. I would love the second bit to be the case. Because if that's true, if that is true, and I got sacked because of a phone call from the Catholic Church, that would mean, historically, I am probably the first comedian to ever get cancelled. Oh, wouldn't that be great? I'd love that. I would love that. But the first one could be true too. The first one, just not funny. That could be true too. You make your mind up. Do you think the sketch about the confessional was funny? Because if you think it was funny, then there's a bigger chance that it's the second explanation. If you think it's the first, and you think I'm just talking shite, and you think it's disgraceful, I should even consider intimating that there would be interference in our media from the Catholic Church, pray for me. Forgive me, and just say a wee prayer for me, and we'll all sleep better.
That's all, folks.